Welcome back to Walk-Ins Welcome, and I was told to do the intro.
Happy Wednesday.
Michael Ray here with Nick Horde, and we're talking to you guys about tripling your patient volume through digital marketing services. And today is a special episode.
And exceptional patient experience.
Yes, that too. I don't do the intros.
You were so close.
I always forget. It's even like when I took tests as a kid, I always forgot something.
That's okay.
Anyway, so let me get my timer going so we're not behind.
Do I need to stall for you while you're getting everything going?
There we go. All righty. So this is a fun episode. I don't know what the final title will be for this episode, but I started out with, I haven't been to the doctor in 10 years until now.
The secret killer, indifference.
It really is. So, yes, I'm just going to go and come out and say, I legitimately haven't been to a doctor, like honestly, haven't been to a doctor in about 10 years, maybe more,
Right.
until this past week. Now, I'll go ahead and say the reason why I went. I'm in my mid-30s, and my wife's like, you should go to the doctor. You haven't been in a really long time. Okay.
All right, so I just want to stop right there. What is it, ladies? I need to know. Why do y'all care that we're going to the doctor? Why do you care? Why do you care? I need to know.
Ryan Reynolds did not help the situation.
What did he do?
He had a colonoscopy thing in his mid-30s or whatever, like earlier than he's supposed to, and they found something. So it's like, oh, now we got to bring some light to that. All that being said, it's true. Like, and I'm not going to lie. My wife needs to go to the doctor quite a few times a year.
Right.
I just don't think about it. She has to go. It's whatever. Like, it's so funny. Like, I've been in the doctor's office many times every year for a long time, but never for myself.
Right.
We have a child, same concept there. So, like, I've never thought about it. But, like, I've all experienced this. And I'm, like, laughing to myself, like, and we literally talk about how the patient experience is. And I became a patient briefly, and I'm going to take you guys through my experience. Now, I'm going to be more digitally and, educated, but all beyond that, though, I went through an up and down process to found somebody, and then I'm going to explain to you how it went. But I will preface with, the doctor was good. I didn't have any major issues in terms of like, this is a terrible, why did I choose these people?
Right.
It was all fine. But as Nick mentioned briefly, indifferent. It was fine. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't groundbreaking. And it wasn't bad. It was good. It was all right.
Well, I mean, like with any business, you want people to either be a raving fan or hate you.
No,
I'm
hate
serious.
you. But yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
but they'll tell everybody, what have I said on this podcast all the time? If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, tell 5 people.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing.
Because they're going to go be like, what is this terrible place?
Well, and yeah, exactly. So like if they, and I'll get to it later, but like I need to get these people a review because it was fantastic. I have no desire for that. And I ain't going to guarantee you, most people that are listening, that a lot of your patients may be thinking the same thing. That's pretty good. I'm not going to think about giving a review because it's like, yeah, it's all right. Like I'm not like tripping over myself trying to tell people, go to this guy. He's amazing. But let's kind of go through that, right? So I'm the typical, haven't been a doctor in a really long time. I need to find a doctor. So what do? I go to Google and I do a look and I type in primary care doctor in the city that I want it to be in. And just happens not the city I live in, but a city nearby, because it's convenient on the way home, right? So I'm looking for convenience. So I type in, primary care Hoover. And a couple of key, like some I recognize, a lot of them I didn't. And I was like, oh, I'll go with this hospital system because my wife goes there. I have a love-hate relationship with them, but it's whatever.
It's funny.
And they just built this beautiful brand new primary care building behind Aldi in Hoover. I was like, all right, I want to check out the building. That was my real interest. I want to see the building. And I go on, like, here you go, hospital system, right? So for all you primary care, urgent care people that are owned by a hospital system, your entire online presence is underneath a hospital name, which is a problem. And let me tell you why. When I dug in and I clicked and I clicked and I clicked, after 5 clicks, I didn't know if I was getting an appointment with a doctor in Hoover or a doctor in Birmingham.
It was crystal clear as mud.
It was, and I was like, screw. After about the 5th click, I'm like, I'm not stupid, but like, screw this. I'm done trying.
Right.
Let me try somewhere else. So
hold on, pause. All right, so you went to schedule online.
I was a qualified lead.
Qualified, ready to spend money, or at least copay, insurance. Yep. You wanted to schedule online. It took 3 or 4 clicks, and you bounced.
I did, because I was like, this isn't the right spot. And I got tired of it.
Just throwing that out there.
Within 30 seconds, I was like, why is this so hard? And I moved on. So to people out there, have somebody that doesn't know you or doesn't know what you do or a non-patient, right? Say, hey, go make an appointment online. What happens? Did they were able to do it or not? Anyway.
No. You see, you got to pause again right there. You just gave out a golden nugget. And that is to have somebody that doesn't know what you do all day, every day, go experience what you do on a digital perspective. Like, go to our website and book a appointment.
Yeah.
We'll go in and cancel it for you. But just tell me about your experience. That's crazy. Keep going.
Anyway, I told you you'd have some thoughts.
Typically, I don't.
All right. So, boom, I'm out. So I go back to Google. I start looking at the next list. I find a guy. He's technically in a hospital system, but when I click on the link, it was still under a hospital system domain, but it was like straight up like their location, their picture, his picture, book an appointment with this doctor. And when I clicked that link, it went to his appointment calendar piece with his name tied to it, and it was all him underneath the hospital system. So it was like one click, I'm in the right spot. It was like a much more seamless click that got to where I wanted to be.
Right.
So, and now here's the thing. Why did I choose that guy? His reviews.
Okay.
And that's something, too, that I think a lot of our urgent cares, medical practice in general miss. Your doctor needs to have their own Google review. Like they need their own platform if they can.
I think the concern there, Michael, is just, if they get up and they go to another location, or another hospital or another practice, they take all those reviews with them. You have to liken that to a trained employee. Here's what I mean by that. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but you wouldn't put somebody at your front desk or a nurse or anything like that and not fully train them and give them access to everything, like reviews, for example, in hopes that they wouldn't go somewhere. Well, maybe if I undertrain them, no, they're just not going to take care of your people. The reason I say that, I know I'm trying to make the connection here, is just that you don't want to treat that doctor like it's a problem if they generate their own reviews. That's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Well, and that's the side of it too, where your practice should have a procedure in place to garner reviews for the practice,
right?
And then the doctor has his or her own way of getting reviews. And then some people just seek it out. They look for anyway. This doctor had a ton of reviews, and they were like, I think he had like almost 100 reviews, and it was, he's amazing, he's super nice, he listens to you. I felt comfortable with him, like pretty consistent. I was like, okay, cool. Like this should be easy. And as a side note, when I met the doctor, he's like, oh, I don't look at my reviews. And I said, you should do that sometime.
Yeah, go pay attention to that.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's number one. I'm brand new. I did a search on Google, and I went with, first I was trying to go with something familiar to me, and the online process was stinky, and I couldn't book an appointment easily. So I moved on to the next set of Google reviews that were encouraging, and it was an easy online book, and I made it happen. All right.
Nice.
So I booked an appointment in like 2 weeks in advance because I'm like, this is just a checkup, really. I don't have any urgency behind this. Just more of like, hey, Courtney, I booked a time. Great. Cool. All right. So here we are, day of. And I didn't put this a note, but I remember now. The morning of, I get a text. Well, worse, when I sign up, I got a text. Hey, you've signed up for this appointment, blah, blah, blah. The day before the appointment, I get a text. Hey, are you still coming? Yes.
Right.
Because you had to say yes or no. There was no ignore.
Right.
You had to put yes or no. So yes. Great. The morning of, it sends me a text and says, hey, you need to sign up for our online portal. And I did not realize that, and this is a problem I ran into, not signing up for the online portal meant that all that stuff I put in on my appointment online didn't actually get transferred.
Okay.
Didn't know that until I got into the check-in.
Communication is key.
It wasn't clear. So I show up at the appointment. Now it's a 4:30 appointment, and they close at 5. That became a problem later, and I'll talk about it. So, but I saw a roll up to the place. Oh yeah, Google had no idea where it was. It put me in a Target parking lot. I knew where the building was, but I was like, where's Google taking me? And it took me to the Target parking lot. You got it wrong.
Got to update that map.
Like dead wrong. So yeah, it got a suite number confused, and it just like, oh, you're in Target. I'm like, I don't think they're in Target. But I knew where they were because I knew where the building was. So I was like, nope, that's not it. And I drive over to the building. Get to the building. It's a big building. It looks like a mini hospital, but it's only 2 floors. And it's like first floor is the pediatric clinic, and then the second floor is primary care.
Okay.
So I walk in. I'm like, okay, cool. I see signage because when you walk in, there's like nobody there. It's kind of dead. And but there's a big old poster with the picture of the doctor that I'm supposed to see. And it said, this way, second floor. I was like, oh, perfect. Like, that's easy navigation. Get in the elevator, go up. It says, this way to check in. Great. Like, there was no question from parking lot to check-in room where I was going. That was nice,
right.
Especially for a big building. You hospital people, my goodness, y'all need to work on your signage, but this was a good experience. All right, so I get in there. I've never experienced, I don't know. For the doctors you've been to, Nick, have you ever had it where the check-in is a physically different room than the waiting room itself?
No.
Yeah.
Typically, there's that front desk that you just go up to the window and you check in.
That's not here.
Okay, that's weird.
I was weird, and I liked it, though. So
okay, they kept it separate.
They kept it completely separate. Like, you go in, it's a little reception desk with probably 4 chairs, and it was literally a check-in room.
Okay.
And they went through the paperwork, and I said, oh, did you do it online? I'm like, yeah. And they said, well, we can't find your stuff here.
You didn't register.
Here's a clipboard of like 10 pieces of paper that are poorly printed. And I was like, hey.
Crooked.
And yeah, they're on crooked, or they've been recopied probably 50 times, and it's like faded. So I'm filling out. And here's the problem. So the receptionist, granted, she was nice, did not smile.
Okay.
And smiling is something like, okay, it's in my head, I was like, it's 4:30 on a Wednesday. She's not smiling. She doesn't want to be here. That was my mindset. Like, she doesn't want to be here. I want to get through as fast as I can because I don't necessarily want to be here, but I'm here.
Well, it's 4:30. They were about to close.
And I didn't. Well, and that was the thing. Why would you give me a 4:30 appointment when you? And I'll get to that in just a second at the end. But I was like, why would you do that if you know you don't want me to be there? Right. So anyway, so I'm filling out. And we start having a conversation because there's nobody there. So we're just chit chatting, and that, it probably took me 10 minutes to fill out the forms, which was annoying. And she had to take a picture of me, and she laughed because I smiled. She said, nobody ever smiles. And I said, well, it's not the DMV. It's okay to smile.
Right.
And she still wasn't smiling.
She's like, yeah, but I'm not going
to. Exactly. And so I filled it out, and then she said, okay, great. Go ahead and pay your copay. I'm like, all right, here you go. And she said, okay, you're going to go out this door, go down the hall on the left, and go through that door. Okay. And so I went in from my check-in room to a waiting room. I sat down for 30 seconds, and then they popped out and said, Mr. Ray, like, that's me. Come on back.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, there's nobody there. Like,
right.
It was, when I walked back there, it was empty. Like, it was oddly empty. And so then we get taken over to the patient room, whatever you want to call it. And so then they start the intake process. And the nurse sits down with me, and she's just asking questions, basically reviewing what I wrote down, going through all this. And then she got to like, what pharmacy you want? I said, oh, I like the Publix on this road. And we've spent 5 minutes trying to find that on her system. And she's like, oh, this is the one that's named weird. I'm like, why don't you just change the name of it? So,
she doesn't know how to, or people don't go there enough.
Yeah. And so we spent forever trying to find that. I had to pull up on my phone. So, well, this is what it's supposed to be, and blah, blah, blah. And I had to ask, like, why? I understand there's a nurse and she's intaking stuff. I get that there's some standard procedures there. And she's sitting in front of a laptop. And she's sitting there and go, well, the doctor comes in. Like, she does her part. And then he comes in. He sits down with a laptop and asks me the same dang questions.
The exact same thing.
Except for pharmacy. Mine's the pharmacy. It was like reviewing the stuff. This is now the 3rd time I've answered this question, which is fine.
Right.
And then they all joke, why are you here? I'm like, because my wife told me to come. It has been 10 years now.
Because I was told to.
Yeah. Like, I need to go find a doctor.
It's funny.
So, but
I will say this, a quick pause there. It is a lot easier when something's wrong to go in and have a good experience at a doctor's office.
Okay.
If you're going in and there's just nothing wrong with you.
Well, like, I'm
okay, glad you're here.
I'm going, and they were kind of like, why are you here? I'm like, I guess it's a physical. I don't know.
Well, I mean, just imagine for a second, we take on a company and they're ranked 1 in Google. Their ads are performing at 98%. All of their Facebook's going, and they sit down with us and are like, We need your help. Well, why are you here? I don't know.
I was told to come.
Everything works great.
I'm okay.
I'm just saying, like, I can imagine that's a hard conversation for us to have with them to give them a good experience when there's no problem to solve. Anyway, keep going.
But no, so, that's true. So, but anyway, like I said, it's kind of an indifferent situation. But so they go through the exam pieces we talked about. You know, probably a 10-minute visit max.
Okay, that's not bad.
Like we chit chat, and this is when I joked with him and said, "You really should look at your reviews. They would pick you up because they love you."
Right.
And he had that. Here's the thing. He literally was kind of like that. Thought like, I don't look at reviews anymore. Almost in the sense of he probably got.
He's probably let that affect him in a negative way in the past.
Yeah, and so he doesn't look. But I was like, man, you should go look at them. People love you, like they really do. Anyway, and so we're like going through that, and it was pretty nonchalant. There was one thing we talked about, and I'll get a referral for it later. It's not a big deal, but it was pretty chill. But the whole point of like the physical is like getting blood work done. That's kind of like where it matters. And he's like, so it's after 5. Granted, I've only been talking to the doctor for maybe 5-6 minutes at this point.
He just got there.
He's like, it's after 5 o'clock.
Then I'm going home.
He's like, my lab people are gone. My checkout person's gone. We're basically so we're done. I can't do anything for you.
That's funny.
And so like I'm literally like walking out of the place and like the lights are off. You know, that type of thing.
I mean, the good news though is there was nothing wrong with you anyway.
True, and there was no concern. Like they did some of the basic vitals, and they're like, "You're okay." I'm like, well, good. You know, good to know.
Your heartbeat's fine.
Yeah, I have blood pressure. That's okay. You know, all the good things. But it was kind of like, I don't like in my head. If you're a doctor's office and you have an active patient in your office, I feel like the key people stay.
Yes.
Until you're done.
Yep. That's like nobody leaves until we're closed.
Yeah, like
or you're off for the night, but until we close.
Yeah, or like get a signal from the doctor saying, "Hey, you're not needed for this patient. You can go home." Like something,
right. But not your front desk. But let me just tell you, man, it's been my experience, and I know we're listening to a lot of business owners right now, but it's been my experience. Like people have checked out 5 minutes before it's time to go.
Yeah,
and they hit that clock and they are gone.
Oh yeah,
and they're not giving it a second thought. So I kind of see why that happened. It's not okay. I'm not saying it's okay, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't have a way to fix it for you, but they get paid the same whether they're there or not. So for them, they're like, I'm leaving.
Yeah, and I don't blame them at all. I just think it was funny. I was like,
probably should have considered that in your appointment.
Yeah, you should probably, because I got there 15 minutes before the appointment. Like I was checking all the boxes. I wasn't like the terrible patient that wasted everybody's time.
Yeah, right.
Like he still got money off of me, and it was more laughing than anything through the whole process. But like that's a note to you people. Like if you're doing online appointments or doing appointment stuff, don't put the last appointment 30 minutes before you close. It should probably be an hour before you close.
Right.
So it actually happened. So, you know, that goes through that and everything's fine. I leave. And I just feel like that was... Anyway, it was kind of whatever. And then the next day, they call me back and say, hey, we weren't... She literally was like, we were gone by the time you were done.
And then they wanted to follow up and finish.
Yeah, so she called me back like at 8:30 the next day. I missed it because I was like, I'll get to you later. And I call her back. She's like, oh, yeah. And for as much little smiling there was going on in that office, they all chuckled. Like,
that's funny.
Anyway.
Well, I think at the end of the day, they were out of gas. We talk about red zones, yellow zones, green zones. They may have been full out red by the time you got there.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I have lab work next week or whatever, but it was just, I don't know. And what it boiled down to was like, it was a good experience, not a great, like, amazing experience. And it wasn't a bad experience. It was just like lukewarm in the middle. Nothing fancy, nothing bad. And I had put a note here. I'm probably not going to leave a review because I've kind of forgotten them to a certain degree. Like
other than for this episode, yeah.
Other than the episode, and I got lab next week, and then when I get that back, then I'm at that point done. But you know, one thing he did do, while we're sitting there, he's like, "All right, but I can go ahead and schedule I need to get you on the books for a year from now, just to check in with you."
Yes, he booked an appointment from an appointment. We talked about that, the magic move.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then the lady called back the next day. She's, I want to confirm that we're getting an appointment next year with you. Let's verify our dates and whatever. And she did. So, like, that was a good move on him of simply like, hey, this is 5 minutes, but since I can kind of tell you don't care, let's go ahead and set an appointment for next year for another physicals to have a check-in. I was like, and I had no reason to say no. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, why not?
So here's what I'm picking up from this. A couple of small things would have taken this from indifference to exceptional.
Yeah, it's very small.
So I'm bringing that up for a specific reason, right? Like, this sounds like a completely normal visit to me.
From the outside in, yeah.
Like every experience I've ever had at any doctor's office. You know who my primary care physician is? Yeah, neither do I. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Your Blue Cross knows.
But that's the point I'm trying to make, though. Like, I never had a bad experience, but I don't care. Like, that there was no exceptional experience that said, hey, I want to go back. That's the point I'm trying to make, is if that other company had maybe put together a better digital marketing presence from the standpoint of making it super easy for you to book online, you would have never had the rest of this experience. That's thing number one, because you would have gone to the other place.
Yep.
But if the lady had just smiled, you would have remembered it. You know, I told a story when I was in college where the lady, the checkout lady, not the check-in lady, but she was the same person, but she handed me a sucker. I was, 19, 20-year-old kid. And she goes, well, everybody should feel like an 8-year-old kid whenever they feel bad, And I'll never forget that ever.
Yeah.
Right? The doctor, like the nurse, as she just engaged with you past a notebook and looked up and said, Michael, how you doing, man? How are you? I'm glad you're here. Anything other than, are you breathing? Let me check your pulse.
Yeah.
Put this under your tongue.
Yeah, and it was all, it was like reading intake questions. And even the doctor was the same way. They were just staring at their laptops. And I get it. Like, there's a part you have to input that info and have records of it. But then there's the other side. And it was, like I said, it wasn't bad. It was just, I don't know, there could have been more.
Well, but that's just it, though. Like, it is even not a lot more. Like, leave the lights on. Right? This is the point I'm trying to make, y'all who are listening right now. The point we're trying to make, though, is it's not a huge gap from indifference to excellence. It's not that big of a gap. It's a couple of intentional things that make people feel better. It's funny. We work with clients all the time, and we hear this more often than we don't, right? Hey, what's different about us than the other companies that you've worked with? What is it? Almost always.
We do the work.
You just do the work, right? Like,
no contracts too, but it's usually we do the work.
But no, this is after they've already started with us.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys actually do what you say you're going to do. I don't understand.
Oh, you're asking me for things?
Yes, right. The point
you need a login.
And this isn't a plug for Patient Care Marketing Pros. The point I'm trying to make, though, is the gap is very small from indifference to significance, from indifference to exceptional. It ain't that much of a gap, and we have a whole podcast all around helping you triple your revenue and exceptional patient value. And all you got to do is just a little bit extra, just a little bit.
It really is.
Or we talk about this all the time. Just go the first mile and quit worrying about the second mile until you've gone the first mile.
Yeah.
But do the first mile really well. Okay.
Make the first mile your second nature, and then make your extra mile the concerted effort.
That's a lot. The first part got me. That was good.
Make your first mile the second nature.
I like that. That's good.
Where it feels
that'll
weird.
Preach, Michael.
Where it feels weird when you're not doing it right.
Exactly.
Like one thing that we have going here extremely well at our company is culture, and it feels weird when culture's off a little bit.
That's right.
Or when something happens, like that doesn't line up correctly. And some of those things, like from the outside looking in, you're like, that's a problem, and y'all like, yeah, we don't want that to be a thing. Or like how y'all bullied me into taking vacation next week.
That's you. Michael will not be here on the next episode. I'll be doing it by myself.
Bring Tower Hannah in.
You know what? I can't get them to come in this room. You know that. All right, that's an inside problem that will not be edited out because for whatever
they may not
reasons,
catch this last
they're
part.
just not going to catch it. Nonetheless, though, like seriously, y'all, and I'm beating a dead horse here, but the gap is just so small between indifference to exceptional.
Well, and we find out like when we pick up new clients from other agencies, and a lot of these agencies, like we have, honest respect for, and then we hear things like, oh, well that's what they do. We already, we do that, or we took care of that a long time ago. They struggle. All I say is
Every one of us struggle with something different.
Yeah, and you're not on an island by yourself. Chances are, if you're having an issue with something, your competitor down the street that you think is a rock star probably has the same issue, just on a different scale every single time. So,
and I'm just going to tell you, this leads into something else that we may need to cover in another episode. That's you struggling with imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
that's you struggling with imposter syndrome. Some of your competitors legitimately are better than you, but only because they've been doing it longer or whatever reason. But
or they have better resources or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a number of reasons, but here's the separator, right? It's just if you do the things that people want you to do for them when they come into your clinic, and you do it right and with excellence, it doesn't matter what the top brand, the best name, the master clinic, down the road is doing, because they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
And they made him feel indifferent.
Yeah, I was like, eh.
And juxtapose that over to the one that I talked about when I got COVID, where they made me sit out in the car. They came out to my car. They treated me like $1 million without harming other people. They swabbed my nose without killing me and poking my brain out. And I got text from my doctor the next day. How you feeling? What can I do for you? Do you need any medication? Did you go pick yours up? How was that experience? Like, dude cared about me. Couldn't believe it. That's the urgent care I go to now. I even have a primary care because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the little things, people.
It is.
It really is. So thank you guys for listening in on this episode. I didn't mean to, but I secret shopped a local primary care. That was not the intention, but when I left, I was like, oh, wait, we could talk about this.
So give them a score. C?
70, 75.
Okay, average.
Like maybe 80.
Okay.
Like nothing killer, but nothing bad. Like good enough, but not great.
Well done for good enough, I guess.
There you go.
All right, let's take it to the next level, y'all.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. It's a stormy day here, so hope y'all are staying safe. But we'll talk to you then.
Have a great week.